everybody. It is Coach Paul here from Rise Above Fitness here in Shorewood, and I'm here to teach you a little bit about your central nervous system. Now, I know this topic doesn't seem overly exciting, especially when it comes to fitness, but it's extremely important if you're trying to maximize your results, especially in the gym, and more importantly, outside of the gym as well. If you're not familiar with the central nervous system, it could be useful information for you to seeing really good results. It is possible to see results from a fitness program and not know anything about the central nervous system, but remember, we're here to save time. We want to maximize your results, and more importantly, we also don't want you to get injured or burnt out as well. So that's the things you're going to be kind of learning in this video and understanding why your body does what it does when it's in certain instances. So let's go ahead and talk about this beautiful whiteboard graphic that I have for you guys. So when we're talking about the central nervous system, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to talk about all of the central nervous system. There's a lot of different parts to it. But the part of the central nervous system that I do want to talk about is the autonomous nervous system. For those who don't know, your autonomous nervous system is pretty simplistic. The word auto kind of lends itself to exactly what this sort of part of your nervous system does. Think auto as in automatic, in the sense that everything that your autonomous nervous system does is not something that you have a lot of control over. It kind of just happens on its own depending on the environment that you give your body. So things that would kind of fall under would be like heart rate hormones or digestive things. So it's one of those things that a lot of people don't even think about this sort of thing, but the hormones is really gonna be like the main thing that you're gonna be thinking about when it comes to any sort of fitness related central nervous system sort of burnout. So let's get a little bit deeper into the autonomous nervous system. It's actually broken down into two parts. The first part is going to be your parasympathetic nervous system. I usually refer to this as what they call rest and digest. So generally speaking, this is going to be the point where you build the muscle, right? So if you're doing any sort of resistance training or strength training, this is the time that your body rebuilds from all the damage that you've done inside the gym. If you don't know, the gym doesn't build muscle. The gym actually breaks muscle down, and the hours to follow it are actually the repair process where you actually make those muscle gains and strength. Like I said before, I refer to this as like the rest and digest. So this is going to be anything that you're doing outside of the gym. Let's talk about the opposite end of it, sympathetic nervous system. So this is essentially the complete opposite. So this is what basically they refer to as fight or flight. This is something that was used in science classes a long time ago. It's kind of an outdated terminology, but I still like to use it here and there. What you need to know about the sympathetic nervous system is that this is where a lot of people tend to struggle. And the reason being is these two hormones right here. The first one being cortisol and the second one being adrenaline. Both of those hormones are designed to enhance the body's performance. So it's not just exclusive to working out either. This is something that is actually going to be in your everyday life. If you have a stressful job, cortisol can actually be released into your bloodstream and give you the same sort of effect as a fight or flight without actually being in the gym. You have to think that this sort of nervous system work actually dates back prior to modern era. And it was really important when we came in contact with something that was dangerous as humans. So, think about caveman times, something that, we would encounter maybe out in nature would be something like a bear. Now, a bear, you basically are giving yourself two options. You're giving yourself the option to fight the bear or run away and not fight the bear, obviously. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're running or fighting, your body has the same hormonal response, which is to introduce cortisol and adrenaline to the system. Why? Because your body identified a fight or flight scenario, therefore this hormone production goes into effect and goes, it doesn't matter if you're gonna run as fast as you can. So that's when the cortisol and adrenaline gets introduced into your system. Same thing with fighting. If you decide that you want to fight, your body's still gonna produce those hormones so that you can perform at your best. Here's the problem, is that these two don't run on endless supplies. So if you're always exposing yourself to your sympathetic nervous system and constantly pumping your body full of cortisol and adrenaline, at some point you're gonna fizzle out. Your adrenal glands will poop out on you, and you're just gonna be overly exposed to these hormones. So that's when we go back to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest, where these hormones allow them to basically rebuild and regenerate in your body so that if you ever encounter your fight or flight in the future, you can be able to maximize that hormonal production. Now, what is the goal when it comes to any sort of weight loss, muscle gain, any sort of program needs a certain level of balance in your body. So basically what I'm saying is I don't want you to be overly sympathetic or overly parasympathetic. You can basically identify yourself as one of two of these people. If you're a parasympathetic individual, it basically means, I call it the couch potato syndrome, but basically what that means is you don't want to do anything, you don't want to go outside, you basically are lazy and you don't want to do anything. That would be what they consider overly parasympathetic, which isn't a good thing. But on the other end, if you're an overly sympathetic individual, you're that person who can't stop moving. They can't take a minute to relax. They are on a go, 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 press on the gas pedal, never on the brakes. The problem with that is that's going to lead to that adrenal fatigue and any sort of cortisol problems. Now, that middle ground where we get these two to kind of blend together is what they refer to as homeostasis, where you have a little bit of one, a little bit of the other, but not too much of one or the other. One thing that you must understand about the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system is that they are not directly related. So if you are overly sympathetic, you can't be overly parasympathetic. Those two are opposite concepts. So I would never prescribe somebody who's overly parasympathetic to do the same things as someone who is overly sympathetic. Those would be basically two different prescriptions. If someone was like, hey, I'm a go, go, go person, I would basically tell them to meditate, go for float therapy, anything to get them sort of more into a relaxed state. And the opposite for anyone who's parasympathetic, go for a walk, try to stay active, try to get that body to produce cortisol and adrenaline into the system. Now, that homeostasis is really where you're going to want to focus on. Now, keep you in mind, if you're an overly sympathetic individual and you're hitting your goals, just remember, you can still achieve what you want to achieve if you're overly sympathetic or parasympathetic, but we're talking about maximizing your results. No one wants to spend years and years and years in the gym making sure that, they run themselves into the ground, which is a really common theme that we see even within our own friends here in the gym, but it's not going to result in them getting a better body faster. It's going to end up in a result of them feeling burnt out, injured, overtraining, or anything like that. So remember, our goal here is to create this nice balance so that your body goes, okay, I have a little bit of sympathetic nervous system firing and a little bit of parasympathetic. I'm in a nice balanced state. Now it's going to really start to burn fat and build muscle. Depending on what your goal is, you'll basically hit that goal a lot faster. The last thing I'm going to send you home with is that these things, the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, can change literally in hours. It just really depends on what you're doing. If you're exercising, your sympathetic nervous system is going to go up. But as soon as you're done exercising and you start foam rolling, stretching, diaphragmatic breathing, box breathing, anything like that, you're going to start to see your sympathetic levels go back down and your parasympathetic levels go back up, which is a good thing. Most people walk out of the gym without doing any sort of cool down, and they're always in this overly sympathetic state, which is obviously not a good thing. Basically, this is just, a very quick tutorial on the central nervous system and how it can affect your results. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll be coming out with other sort of videos in terms of, your nervous system, any sort of mindset in the future. But I wanted to keep it simple for you guys today, just so you have a basic understanding, so you can kind of start to think about whether are you a parasympathetic or sympathetic individuals, and what steps you can take in order to make sure that you hit a state of homeostasis.